Imagine trusting someone so deeply that you hand them your life savings, your retirement, your children's future, your financial security, believing you are placing it in the safest hands in America. And imagine waking up one day to discover that every cent is gone. Not lost in the market, not taken by bad luck, but stolen, piece by piece, over decades by a man who promised stability and delivered devastation. This is not a movie. This is not a cautionary tale from a dusty textbook. This is the true story of Bernie Madoff, the mastermind behind the largest financial fraud in U.S. history. And tonight, we're taking you inside the $65 billion scam that shattered families, crippled charities, ruined lives, and exposed the darkest side of blind trust. Bernie Madoff was not an outsider trying to break into Wall Street. He was Wall Street, a man with a polished smile, calm voice, and impeccable reputation. For decades, Madoff was celebrated as a financial genius, a pioneer who helped build the modern stock market, and a philanthropist who moved effortlessly through the highest circles of power. He was admired, respected, even idolized. Investors didn't just trust him, they felt honored to have access to him. But beneath the spotless surface was a secret so massive, so calculated, and so terrifyingly simple that it would become the foundation of the biggest Ponzi scheme the world had ever seen. The genius of Madoff's scam was not in complexity. It was in psychology. Madoff understood something fundamental about human nature. People trust consistency. People crave stability. And when someone offers returns that look calm in a chaotic world, they become irresistible. Madoff promised steady profits. No wild swings, no huge losses, just quiet, reliable growth. It sounded too good to be true, yet so many desperately wanted it to be real. He didn't lure people with greed. He seduced them with safety. His strategy was brilliant in the most disturbing way: exclusivity. Madoff made it seem like he was turning clients away, choosing only a select few. And nothing makes people want something more than being told they can't have it. Investors begged to get in. Wealthy families referred friends. Charities trusted him with their futures. Celebrities handed him fortunes. Even major banks fed money into his operation. And all the while, Madoff sat in his quiet office, smiling, while behind a closed door his fraudulent empire grew. But let's be clear, this was no small operation. For decades, Bernie Madoff ran what appeared to be one of the most successful investment firms in the world. Clients received detailed statements showing precise trades, perfect returns, and flawless execution. But none of those trades were real. Not a single one. The paper reports were fabricated. The profits were imaginary, and the only money being used to pay investors was coming from new victims who unknowingly stepped into the trap. Madoff's scheme worked because the world trusted him blindly. Regulators believed him. Banks believed him. Financial experts believed him. Even when red flags appeared, strange patterns, impossible returns, inconsistency. In reports, the warnings were ignored or brushed aside. Madoff was too well connected, too respected, too powerful. People didn't question him because they didn't want to believe that someone so admired could be lying. But the truth doesn't disappear just because people refuse to see it. Inside Madoff's firm, the fraud was tightly controlled. Only a tiny circle of insiders knew what was happening. They handled the fake reports, manipulated the data, and kept the illusion alive. Everyone else believed they were part of a legitimate financial empire. Madoff built a wall between his fraudulent operation and the rest of the world. And behind that wall, he orchestrated a symphony of deception that lasted longer and reached farther than any other financial scam in history. To understand the magnitude of Madoff's deception, you must understand the scale of the damage. People didn't just lose money, they lost their futures. Retirees were forced back to work. Families lost homes. Charities collapsed. Universities lost endowments. Thousands of people saw the savings of a lifetime evaporate overnight. And the emotional toll was even worse. Distrust seeped into relationships. Shame replaced pride. Some victims became too overwhelmed to continue living. Madoff didn't just steal dollars, he stole hope. But perhaps the most devastating part is how long it took for the truth to come out. Not because the fraud was brilliantly hidden, but because the world refused to see what was right there in front of them. For years, whistleblowers sent reports highlighting the impossibility of Madoff's returns. Analysts flagged mathematical inconsistencies. Financial experts questioned his strategies, but every warning was ignored. People believed the fantasy because the fantasy made them feel safe. The collapse of the scheme wasn't caused by whistleblowers or audits. It happened because the market crash of 2008 sent investors into a panic. People rushed to withdraw their funds. But Madoff had no funds. He had no investments. He had no profits. He had nothing. The money people thought they had didn't exist. And as billions in withdrawal requests poured in, the lies finally unraveled. On December 10th, 2008, Bernie Madoff confessed his entire operation to his sons, who immediately reported him to authorities. By the next day, the man who once commanded the respect of the financial elite was in handcuffs, and with his arrest began the painful process of uncovering the full scale of the destruction he caused. Investigators discovered that the supposed $65 billion portfolio was nothing more than paper, a fabrication of statements, numbers, and illusions. Billions that people thought they had earned were never real. And the victims weren't just wealthy investors, they included everyday people, small businesses, non-profit organizations, and pension funds. The ripple effect of the scam spread across the country and around the world. During his trial, Madoff described his scheme as a giant lie. But that phrase barely captures the magnitude of the betrayal. Madoff didn't just deceive people for money. He deceived them for decades. He built relationships, attended their events, accepted their trust, and then quietly stole everything they had. The calculated nature of his actions was chilling. He didn't accidentally fall into fraud. He constructed it, protected it, and expanded it for years. What made the scandal even more disturbing was the reaction from the people who knew him personally. Friends were stunned. Colleagues were shocked. His own family was devastated. His wife became a public outcast. One of his sons died by suicide under the weight of shame and grief. Another died from cancer years later, still carrying the emotional burden of his father's action. The Madoff name became synonymous with betrayal. But Bernie Madoff didn't act alone. Investigators later uncovered a network of individuals who helped facilitate the fraud. Knowingly or unknowingly, some processed transactions without questioning the inconsistencies. Others helped create the false reports. Still others failed to examine obvious red flags. It wasn't just one man's deception. It was a system that allowed that deception to thrive. And that is what made the scandal so terrifying. The aftermath forced America to ask difficult questions. How could this happen? How could regulators fail so badly? How could banks, auditors, and professionals overlook the lies? The uncomfortable truth is that Madoff exploited not just people's trust, but the weaknesses of an entire financial system. He exposed how vulnerable people become when they rely on appearances instead of evidence. And he showed how dangerous it is to confuse reputation with integrity. Madoff's sentencing was dramatic. The judge delivered the maximum penalty, 150 years in prison. A symbolic number meant to reflect the immeasurable harm he caused. But for many victims, no sentence could ever repair the damage. Money can be recovered to some extent, but lost trust, lost time, lost lives, those are wounds that never fully heal. The Madoff case became the ultimate warning, a reminder that even the most respected figures can betray you. It exposed the dark truth that fraud doesn't always look suspicious. Sometimes it looks polished, professional, and comforting. Sometimes it smiles, shakes your hand, and tells you you're safe. And that is what makes it so dangerous. Even today, years after his death, the name Bernie Madoff sends a chill through anyone who remembers the collapse. His actions reshaped finance, reshaped regulation, and reshaped the way people think about trust. The story is not just about one man's greed. It's about the human tendency to believe comforting lies over uncomfortable truths. And that brings us to the real heart of this story. Why did so many people believe him? The answer is simple. He told them exactly what they wanted to hear. Stable returns, no volatility, no surprises. In an unpredictable world, he offered predictability. But sometimes predictability is the biggest red flag of all. Markets rise and fall. Investments grow and shrink, and anyone who claims they can smooth out those waves is either lying or delusional. The lesson of Madoff is not to trust no one. It's to trust wisely. It's to ask questions. It's to demand transparency. It's to understand that the greatest risk in finance is not the market, but the illusion of safety. And that is the story of Bernie Madoff, the man who built a $65 billion lie and shook the foundation of American finance. But this story isn't just history. It's a warning, a reminder that in a world full of promises, the most dangerous thing you can do is trust blindly. The next Madoff won't look like a criminal. They'll look like a hero, like a genius, like someone offering exactly what you want to hear. This has been Wealth Nexus, bringing you the stories that protect your wallet and sharpen your judgment. If you found this breakdown powerful, stay with us, because the world of money is filled with secrets, and we're here to uncover every one of them. Stay cautious, stay informed, and above all, stay wealthy.